Hey y'all, Mama Snark here. I'm going to do an updated video on my thoughts flying Spirit Airlines. Since my first video came out, and I'll link that one down below for you, I have since flown Spirit about 4 more times now. I know they get a bad rap. People give them, they don't like them. But honestly, I haven't had any problems. Knock on wood. But like I said, I've flown them about 4 more times now, with and without children. And I gotta say, for the price point, they're just my go-to airline now. So you can find super cheap fares, like super cheap fares. And I'll insert a video here on how I find these cheap fares. So basically go to Spirit's website, type in your starting airport and the airport that you want to fly into. Select a random date around the time that you want to travel. And then when that comes up, you're going to click that rates calendar tab, and it's going to bring up the full month calendar. And you can go forward, I think, about 4 to 5 months. And basically, a lot of the times that I travel, I tend to pick my travel dates around the cheap Spirit airline ticket flights. So I've noticed that Saturdays tend to be on the cheaper end, and then usually coming home like a Tuesday or a Wednesday is also around the cheap time. So a lot of the times when I'm booking my Disney trips, or if I'm going to Chicago to visit my brother or something like that, I will pick the cheapest flights possible. I recently flew round trip to and from Orlando Airport from New Orleans, round trip for 2 people, my son and myself, round trip, $115. You can't beat that. It would cost me more in gas just to get my vehicle there and back if we drove from the New Orleans area to Orlando. So for that price point, you can't beat them. I know people are nervous with, number one, the first issue I'm going to talk about is the seat selections. So they do upcharge if you pick your seat ahead of time. The seats range from, I think, $15, $20 to up to $40 to $60, just depending on what seat you're picking. If you're getting one of the comfy legroom big front seats, or just to pick your seat in general. I have never picked my seat. I've never paid to pick my seat. I know people want to do it for peace of mind just to make sure. I haven't flown by myself with an adult yet. I've flown by myself, and I've flown by myself with 1 child twice now. And I've flown as a family of 4, 2 adults and 2 kids. So I haven't flown by myself with just 1 adult. I'm actually doing that in May. And honestly, we're 2 adults. We don't care if we sit together. The flight's an hour and 45 minutes tops. If we get separated, I don't care. I'll just put my earbuds in and enjoy the flight. So my experience flying by myself with 1 child, this recent time I flew with my son for his 5th birthday to Disney World for a quick little 3-night getaway. Both times, set an alarm on your phone for exactly 24 hours before your flight the following day. So say my flight was, I think my flight leaving there was 12:16 or something like that. So I set an alarm on my phone the day before. Exactly when that time frame hit, I checked in on the app. We had seats together, no problem. On the way there, we were aisle and middle. And then I did the same thing when we were in Disney World for the coming home flight. And it put us 2 seats together, window and middle. So that was no issue. The time that I flew with my daughter, which is that first video that I did, they did put our seats 2 and 2 and then a stranger in the middle. So as soon as I got to the Spirit gate, that we were going to be flying out of, went up to a gate agent once the gate agent was there, and I said, hey, I'm flying with a minor. Can you move our seats next to each other so that we're flying together? And took care of it, no problem. So we got 2 seats next together flying there. Flying back, it was the same thing. It put us 2 and 2, and then we're separated by a middle seat. So I did the same thing. As soon as the gate agent was there and I made it to the gate, I asked to move our seats together. That time, it was not a full flight at all, so there was just no one in that middle seat. So we basically had the whole row to ourselves. Flying with a family of 4 as 2 adults and 2 kids. The flight on the way to Orlando, it was Thanksgiving night. They put us 2 and 2, and someone in that middle seat, or we weren't in the middle seats. We were aisle and window and aisle and window. So when we got there, we went up to the gate agent, said, hey, you know, we're flying with minors. Can you just kind of switch the seats around so that our kids are sitting next to us? Which honestly, if a stranger was in that middle seat, I highly doubt they would mind either moving to the aisle or the window as to not be next to our kid. But you never know. There are some strange people in the world that would get, you know, a thing in their head of, well, you should have picked your seat and paid for it then. But anyway, so we went to the gate agent, said, can you move our seats next to each other? And it turns out it wasn't a full flight. There was no one in those middle seats. So we just had the rows to ourselves. Easy peasy. The second concern that I see a lot of people with Spirit Airlines, and this was my biggest concern too, was the baggage allowance. You do have to pay for any kind of bags that you want to bring with you. So you get one personal item per person. And I'll insert the dimensions here for you. I'm pretty sure it's like 18 by 14 by like 8 or 9 or something. And I'll insert my link to my favorite bag too, and I'll insert all of my packing videos linked below as well, because I've done several of them now. But the Osprey, I think it's a 36-liter transporter bag, is like, I think an inch too tall or something technically, but knock on wood, I've never been asked to weigh it. I mean, to measure it, to like put it in the airport sizer thing at the gate. And it's also like a squishy soft-sided backpack, so if I needed to, I'm sure I could shove it in there somehow and, you know, finagle it to get in that little sizer. But I've never been asked to. I'm pretty sure the gate agents are pretty well trained by now, and they can kind of eyeball a backpack or a tote or whatever, or duffel, and see if it's around the size requirements for that personal item. They are also used to people stuffing the mess out of these bags, because if you're trying to fly on the super cheap, or you don't want to check a bag, several times that I've flown, you're going to stuff it to the gills to get everything you need in that one bag. So flying with my daughter and flying with my son, they are over the age of 2, they also get a personal item. So when I flew with my son recently in January to and from Orlando, I got a backpack, like I did all the clothes and the transporter backpack, and then I also have a Vera Bradley like duffel tote bag thing that I really like, and I'll insert that as well. So he got that one. So basically I put all of our clothing items in one bag, and then the other bag was all of our like extra kind of stuff, and then I left some room in it to bring souvenirs home. Checked bags. I have done checked bags when we went as a family of 4 for a full week in Orlando. We weren't going to get away with just personal items only. We needed, you know, more space than that for clothing. So we did do 2 checked bags on the way there and on the way back. I will say Spirit is very strict about that 40-pound weight limit. So I highly recommend bringing a portable luggage scale. I'll insert a picture here, and I'll insert the link down below for you. The one that I got, I think it was like $8 or $9 on Amazon, just to weigh before you get to the airport, and then also like coming home after you repack. Say you've added a couple of souvenirs to it, you've rearranged things aren't going in exactly the same order, the same suitcases on the way down. Weigh it before you get to the airport. You don't want to have to do the unpack of shame and have to like unzip suitcases and move items around to try to get that weight under 40 pounds, because people behind you will be very, very mad. So make sure that if you do a checked bag, which I've done, it wasn't an issue checking it, just make sure it's under 40 pounds. It's actually cheaper, which is kind of annoying, but it's cheaper to do a checked bag, which is bigger, than to do a carry-on, to pay for a carry-on, which is like, you know, the 21-inch roller size carry-on luggage. I think the difference is like $10 to $15, and I'll try to insert some pictures here. I think I took some screenshots of what those bags cost whenever you're checking in. Another thing with bags, it is cheaper to buy them if you think you are going to want a bag or need a bag. It is much cheaper to buy it at the time of purchasing your plane tickets, versus when you check in, like 24 hours ahead of time when you check into your flight, it'll ask you again, would you like to check bags? It's a little bit more expensive. Also, that's cheaper than if you get to the airport and realize, hey, I couldn't fit everything in these bags. I bought a carry-on or something when I was out on vacation and want to add that to my allowed luggage. It's going to be like $100 for a carry-on. So say I'm in Disney, bought too much stuff. I buy one of those like little like shopping market tote bag things, and I want to use that as a carry-on, it's going to cost me $100 to add that to my ticket. And I have seen on my way back from Chicago, I was flying with like a basketball team or something, and they had a young man that had 2 backpacks, like one on each shoulder. And as he was, you know, going to scan his boarding ticket to get on the flight, an agent said, "Hey, you don't have a carry-on listed on your boarding pass. I'm going to have to ask you to step to the side here, come to the counter, and pay for one of those as a carry-on item." So that kid had to pay $100 for one backpack. Don't do that. Don't try to sneaky, you know, bring a bag in that you haven't paid for, because they will stop you and they will make you pay for it. And you don't want to have to do that. The other thing about the Spirit flight, it is a no-frills baseline flight. You're not going to have like the DVD players and the headrest that you can plug headphones into and watch something on your flight. Make sure you have something downloaded to your phone or your tablet, your kids' tablets, and like some kind of entertainment if that's something you need. Also, you're going to have to pay for any drinks and any snacks you want on your flight. And I'll insert, I think I took some screenshots here of like baseline prices for if you want like a soft drink, a bottle of water, anything like that. So your best bet is to either purchase that at the airport before you board your flight, or to like bring it with you basically. The next thing people complain about is the seats themselves being like uncomfortable or tiny. They're fine for me. I'm an average size woman. I'm 5'5", size like large, extra large. I don't have any issues fitting in the seat. If you're a larger person or a taller person, you might want to go ahead and spring for that like extra roomy, comfy big seat, which I think are the ones like up in the front rows, to give yourself a little bit more room and a little bit more leg room. My husband is about like 210, 215 pounds. He's about 6'3". And while it wasn't the most comfortable flight for him, he was able to fit just fine. Like, it was a little bit of a tight squeeze. If he would have had to put like a backpack or something underneath the seat, like in front of him, like instead of putting it in the overhead bin, it would have been like his knees would have been jammed up. But we were able to put the backpacks in the overhead. You know, they didn't say anything about that, and he was able to have enough leg room for the hour and 45-minute flight that we were on. If you are flying a longer flight, more than an hour and a half, 2-hour flight, you might want to go ahead and spring for that extra leg room just to make yourself more comfortable. Like I said, I tend to fly baseline, not paying extra for it kind of situation, and it's fine for me. Like I said, average height, average size, I don't have an issue. And then I'm usually flying with a child. They don't need any leg space at all. Like, I was actually able to, I'll insert a little video clip here, put the Vera Bradley like tote bag underneath the seat in front of Man Cub, and he didn't need the leg space, so it was fine. Another thing is going to be if you're flying with a stroller. I have kind of 2 things to cover on that one. So number one, as soon as you get to the gate, or as soon as the gate agent is there for your Spirit flight, take your stroller to the gate and go ahead and get that stroller tag. And I'll insert a video here. It is a green tag that you attach to the stroller. You put one part on the stroller, the other part you keep to like claim your stroller at the end. I've never had them ask for this ticket, but just in case. So flying with a big double stroller, absolutely, obviously, I'm gonna have to gate check it. So when you're boarding the plane, when you get to the like down the runway right before you hop onto the plane, you're gonna fold your stroller with that green tag on it and leave it right there, or if someone is there, hand it off to them. They're gonna take that and put it underneath the plane. So my thing with this, once you land, you also have to wait right there for someone to get your stroller and bring it back up and hand it off to you. They tend to not do this until pretty much everyone's off the plane. Like on our way to Disney, the pilots, the flight attendants, everyone was off the plane before they actually like shoved our stroller back up. So my advice to you in this scenario, if you were gate checking a stroller, don't be one of those people as soon as the plane lands, you stand up and you're like shoving people away in the aisle and trying to get your bags from the overhead bin and, you know, trying to be one of the first ones off, because you're going to have to wait. So you might as well just stay seated, let everyone pass you up, you know, especially with kids. Like, that's just a nightmare. So just go ahead and stay seated. Let everyone go. As soon as the plane is mostly clear, get out of your seat, get your stuff from the overhead bin or underneath or wherever, get your kids, and then exit the plane. And then you still might even have to wait a little bit, like I said, for them to get your stroller out from under the plane and bring it back up top for you to take. My second thing with strollers, I also, if I'm traveling solo with one kid, my favorite stroller is my Jules Air. And I'll link my video down below of my review of this stroller. It is just chef's kiss, man. If you're traveling with one kid, like, it's the best stroller ever. So it folds one-handed. It folds down very small to fit in an airplane overhead bin. Also comes with a rain cover and a airplane bag. I've flown a couple of times Spirit Airlines with it, and it fits in the overhead bin. My advice is put it in that red, like, travel bag, or if you're flying with, like, an Ergo Metro Plus, I have one of those too. Get the backpack for it. Whatever small compact stroller that fits in the overhead bin you have, get the bag for it. Because my experience flying with it, when it was in the red bag, and I'll insert a picture here, I just brought it right on the plane with me, shoved it in that overhead bin, no questions asked. On the way home from Disney this time, I just rode Man Cub like right up to the gate, folded it down right before I got on the airplane. I knew we were coming into bad weather, so I didn't want to hand it off to gate check it because I didn't want it getting ruined. It's a almost $500 stroller. So I was like, I'm just going to bring it on the plane with me and put it in the overhead bin. I didn't put it in the red airplane gate check bag. It was just folded down. And I had 2 or 3 flight attendants stop me and they're like, oh, you need to hand it off at the gate check. And I had put the green tag on it. I went and got the stroller tag. And they're like, well, it has a stroller tag on it. You need to go put it at the gate. I was like, well, can I just take the tag off? So if you want to overhead bin your compact stroller, don't put the stroller tag visible on it. Like, get it just in case, but have it tucked into the bag or tucked in elsewhere so they can't see it. Number 2, I had, once it was in the overhead bin and the flight attendants were coming and shutting the bins, I had someone ask, oh, whose car seat is that? And I was like, oh, it's mine. It's a stroller. And they were like, oh, well, it probably needs to go to get gate checked. And I'm like, it's already in the bin. It obviously fits. Can it just stay there? Like, no one was looking for extra space to put their stuff up. Like, we were closing it up to take off. And he was kind of like, I guess it's fine. For me, it was worth it to argue it because I didn't want my stroller getting damaged in the torrential downpour we were flying into. But definitely put it in the bag if you plan on doing that. So that's pretty much all I have to say about flying Spirit Airlines. If you can find the super, super cheap flights like I've been able to find, I have had no issues. I think the biggest issue I've had is this last time I flew with my son solo. When we landed into Orlando, we landed a little bit early, like 10, 15 minutes early, but we ended up having to sit in our seats for about an hour, like 30 minutes to an hour. It felt like 5 hours for them to find a gate to deboard us. Like, when we landed, they're like, oh, all the gates are full. We're just waiting for one to open up to pull up to so that we can deboard. So we ended up sitting there for like 30 minutes to an hour, which felt like forever once you've already been crammed in that seat with all these people for, hour and a half, hour and 45-minute flight. But that's literally the biggest issue I have ever had. So if that's the case for $115 round trip flight, I'll take it. So that's my thoughts on flying Spirit Airline. I hope this video was helpful. Make sure you give it a thumbs up, like and subscribe, ring that notification bell, and follow along for more mommy tips and tricks on traveling with children. Bye, guys.